Hello and welcome to our coaches interview for the 2024 CFC Prospect Game, featuring some of the best Canadian high school players from across the country. And obviously, this game not only features some of the best players from across the country, but we got two Canadian football greats between Milt and Davis here as opposing head coaches. So how's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going great. And we have at least one. I don't know if we have two CFL greats. We have one. I don't know about two. That's arguable right there. So we'll see.
I'm not even going to respond to his jabber. We're just going to let our guys on the field do the talking for us, because Milt likes to run his mouth. So let's just let's let the game happen, and we'll go from there. I'm going to try to hold from responding.
I didn't say it was me, Davis. I didn't even say it was me. I just said we had one. Who it was. I just said we have one. So that means clearly you're not one, because that's what you're thinking. So we'll talk about that later.
Hey, well, I like the response, keeping it professional.
Yeah.
So my first question for you guys is, how was last year's experience coaching, and what do you look forward to most in this year's experience?
I'll take this one, and it's, for me, it's really the experience of being around these kids, and I look at the history of football in Canada, a guy who grew up here in the minor football system and playing junior football here, and when I see some of these young men, I won't even call them kids, young men, and the talent and the motivation, the drive these guys have, I was impressed my first year with how good kids are. I've been out of the youth football and university football, high school football roots here. I have been out of it. To come back and be a part of it and see how good kids are at this age, I love it. I love the experience. Love being around them. The energy and all of that is just something that, for me, I get excited, because we know what these guys, all the work. We all know all the work that goes into being a high school athlete, trying to get to the next level. You sacrifice so much. You're from your personal life to your family to everything, trying to get ultimately to that goal, and to be around these guys when they're so close. It's inspiring. I'm impressed by them, and I end up learning a lot from these kids, and so it's cool to be around it, because I'm not around it very often. So I love that experience in the last few years. Also winning and dominating as well, but that's that goes without saying.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Davis alluded to, being around these great young men, and also the great coaches. These coaches. Of course, Davis and I are the head coaches, but there's so many coaches throughout the country who are developing these young guys and trying to get them to play together. But it's some very talented young men who are going out there and showcasing their skills, and they're going out there trying to work, but they're also trying to win the game. Like Davis just mentioned, he won last year, and I'm looking forward to winning this year. It's not just going out there and playing hard. These guys are trying to win. You don't go out there and, as Davis mentioned, sacrifice and work out and not being able to spend time with your friends. You got to work out just to play hard. You want to win. So these guys are trying to win, and I guarantee you, I'm going to get revenge, and I'm going to win. Milt Stegall, Team Steagall's going to win this year. I promise.
Hey, now we got that in 4K. We got the promise. Obviously, you guys have both found tons of success at the professional level. You've both got enough wins under your belts at this point anyway. But what's the difference between being a player on the sidelines and being on the sideline in a coaching capacity?
Well, for me, sorry about that. For me, it's not. You think you're in control, but you're not. You're not in control. You have to rely on the individuals that are on the field. As a player, when I was playing, I can somewhat control my own destiny. When I stepped on the field, I knew, okay, I have an out route. I can run an out route. I have a post route. I can run a post route. But as a coach, you give your team a play, and you don't always know if you have control over the destiny. So that's where you have to depend on what you did in practice. Hopefully You put your players in the right position to be successful. But it's not an easy task as a coach, realizing that you don't control your own destiny. It's based on what happens with your players on the field. So for me, that's why I always say I couldn't coach, because I don't control my own destiny. It's a difficult task being a coach. I don't care how smart you are, how well prepared you are. If your players on the field don't respond to what you're trying to put into them, it's going to be hard to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, Quincy, I always say I could never coach. I mean, unless I was coaching 50 David Sanchez's, I couldn't coach. Okay, I stole that line. I stole that line from Milt. That's a Miltism. He says he could never coach unless he had 50 guys that were as great as he is. The humbleness and humility is wearing off of Milt. Rubbing off. Look, no, yeah, I mean, it's on the sideline, and that's why, like, we're not coaches, and it's I think it's difficult to try to, to great players don't always make great coaches. But I will say that these young men, and because they're being taught in Q, you've been coached well your whole life. You've been around great players and great coaches your life. You understand, trying to take what's being told to you and put it into work. I noticed last year, I think it's because these kids have been coached well for so long, that they take it. They take coaching, they understand, they put it to work. We were only there for 2 days, and some of these kids were picking stuff up really quickly, kind of changing techniques that they may not have seen before, but were really willing. But yeah, for us, it's all, Milt mentioned it already. It's not about, we're really just figureheads and guys who maybe can talk to these guys about some of the stuff they could expect at the next level as friends and mentors. But it's these great university coaches and guys that'll be coaching these kids that are really going to do the X and O's of it. But I don't like being on the sideline in a pressure situation. I'd rather be playing and performing to decide my fate. So I don't envy these coaches.
That makes sense. And speaking of these great players you're coaching, obviously this game gets a ton of the top high schoolers from across the country. But I was wondering if you could speak at all to the evolution of football in Canada and how you're seeing these players move on to play at higher levels, like all these skill position guys like Claypool and Javon Holland in the NFL, and just the growth of football in Canada overall.
And Hubbard and Josh Palmer, and it goes on and on and on. There is, I mean, it's not even close. The amount of talent, I think this is the most Canadians ever been drafted this year. I don't think it's close. And it's more and more every year. We're talking about the NFL right now, getting drafted more and more Canadians every year. The talent pool in Canada, and it's the reason that the playing field has been leveled is because of online. We're able to get, you're able to get the same workouts, the same programs, access to all the stuff these guys are doing. So it's, I mean, I always say this, and a lot of folks look back and they'll say, oh, well, back in my day, camp was way harder and players are tougher. And that is all not factual. Camp, actually, I take that back. Camp was tougher. Players might have been tougher, but we sure as heck weren't better. The talent of these kids right now, I say I was the first Canadian-born player to ever start at corner in the NFL, and I think the first one to be a multi-all-star at cornerback in the CFL because there's not many Canadians doing it. Well, that being said, I don't even know if I would make a CFL roster this year as a Canadian. I don't even know if I'd make the team. So that'll tell you, how great. And I'm not diminishing, my skill level, but I'm saying that these kids now, the talent level is through the roof, and we're not second to anybody anymore. And I love watching these kids. I met Antoine Delorier the year before last, or last year, and he was. I mean, this kid was more physical and a better player in space than me at 15 years old, and I was at 26 and CFL All-Star in the NFL. So that'll tell you, how great our young Canadians are right now.
Right. And just speaking, you talk about the evolution, and I was going to mention Davis, how he was one of the first Canadian high schoolers to go on and play in the States, play Division I football at the University of Oregon, get an opportunity, play 2 or 3 years in NFL, and you see it now, and it's happening all the time. It's not just every decade. It's players getting that opportunity and taking full advantage of it every single year. And Davis spoke of how guys are able to go on social media, go on YouTube and get these workouts. Or you see guys now and 15, 16 years old going down to the States, going to these prep schools, getting all this training, or even guys now who are staying in Canada and just the evolution of how more athletic they are than guys like Davis or myself at a younger age, and they're getting those opportunities. So regardless of where you go to school, if you go to school in Canada or if you go to school in the States, if you're good enough to play at the next level, they will find you. You don't have to be at University of Nebraska, University of Oregon, University of Alabama. You could be at Queens, you could be at McGill, you could be at any of these universities. If you're good enough to play at the next level, they will give you that opportunity. So that's the one thing I love about the World Wide Web or the internet, whatever it may be. If you're good enough, they will find you and give you that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's very well spoken. Obviously, some great development in the Canadian football landscape. And there's a lot of guys in this game who are pretty much all of them are going to go on to play at the next level, whether that be U Sports or Division One. And kind of transitioning and asking you guys about your experiences. I was wondering at what point you guys realized you were capable of playing football at the professional level, or anything you remember about your first offer, visit, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Oh, well, for me, it actually, I never had any dreams or inkling that I was going to play in the NFL. It never came to me. My thing was I was always going to work the hardest. I was going to do my best just to be the best. But in my junior year, we were in spring ball, and my receiver coach at the time, a guy named Sean Watson. Sean Watson was only like 27, 28 as my coach. He had a buddy who played tight end for the Chicago Bears. So his buddy came and watched us in a spring practice. And after the practice, he pulled me aside and said, "You're good enough to play in the NFL right now. You have the skill set. Yeah, there are some things that you need to work on, but you're polished enough to get an opportunity to play in the NFL." Then after that, that's when I thought to myself, well, maybe I do have a chance. So long story short, I did get a chance to play in the NFL. I played 3 years, and then I got an opportunity to play in the CFL, and I, played 14 years. So sometimes it's just someone telling you or giving you that confidence to say that, hey, you have an opportunity, you have the skill set. Yeah, there are some things you need to work on. You can't take these opportunities for granted, but there's a possibility that you have that chance. And someone told me that, and I took full advantage of
Yeah, yeah. For me, my story really comes full circle because Adam Rita, who is a part of the program, and everybody knows Coach Rita. When I was in junior college, I went to Butte Junior College down in California. And that's where Aaron Rodgers went, and a bunch of Canadians. There's a ton of Canadians. That's why I went there, and I walked on. It was not I was not a highly recruited guy coming out of high school. Like Milt mentioned earlier, not a bunch of guys were going down south end unless you were 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman. They looked at our film as skill position guys and just weren't sure if we were athletic enough to play because of who we were playing against and what they saw in that grainy VHS camcorder tape from my mom. But Adam Rita, when I was at Butte my second year, I signed, had a good season, and I got recruited and I got signed to Oregon. And Adam Rita was good friends with the late Rich Stubler. And Rich Stubler was, Adam Rita was the GM and head coach of the BC Lions. Rich Stubler was at Oregon as the defensive coordinator. And when I signed there, he called Adam Rita and said, "I got a Canadian kid that we just signed who plays in California. Could he come out to camp and be around the BC Lions a bit, learn some of the stuff you guys got going?" I was able, Coach Stuber got me with Adam and Coach Rita, and I was able to do some one-on-ones and hang around with some of the practice squad guys, or after practice get extra work with guys like Alfred Jackson, Damon Allen, just kind of shadowing them, covering, kind of, they obviously could work a little junior college kid, but just allowing me to be out there with them. And at that point, I knew, my movement and watching those guys, I realized that, hey, wait a minute, I'm good enough to play in this league, and And I think that really hit for me. But all that was because, Coach Stubler and Coach Rita let a kid kind of double as a ball boy slash helper at camp. And I was able to get out there and be around pros. And that's one of the things about Canada that we have, and the CFL in particular, is, the accessibility to players. All young guys, have the chance to go out and watch local guys train on the field at your high schools or at your universities. Guys come back, go out, be around those guys, watch what they do. And it'll give you understanding of where you're at or where you need to get to. And I think that's, for me, that was what happened. But shout out to Adam Rita for allowing that, and rest in peace to Rich Stubler, who was my college coach and recruited me.
Yeah, those are some really cool stories. Obviously, there's some combine testing that goes on this week leading up to the game. And I was also looking for maybe another good story out of you guys, if you had any about combine testing prep of your own. Obviously, that's an area that's kind of developed and changed a lot over the last generation too. But I was wondering if you guys got any stories about that.
Well, for me personally, don't really much into the combine. That's me personally. Anybody can go out there and, a great route or run a great 40 or jump and blah, blah, all that. My thing is, I'm all about the game film. I don't care what you do at the combine. I want to see what happens as a receiver. You just ran a slant and you got hit, and you get back up, get to the huddle, and come out and do another slant knowing that you're going to get hit. Or you just ran a long route and it was incomplete. Now, can you come back and on special teams, and are you in good enough shape to run down and cover a punt? As a DB, you just got burned. How are you going to react? Or as offensive line? That's what I want to see. I understand, the combine is needed, but when guys go out and do well at the combine and their film doesn't show that they can play well, I don't care about that, or vice versa. My thing is all about what can you do on film. If I was a GM, if I was a coach, if I was head of player personnel, all I got to do is watch the film. I don't care about the combine. I really don't care about that. That's me personally. That's where I put everything is on the film.
Wow. I agree with that. I will mention one thing. You talk about guys running slants, getting hit. I don't think you ever ran a slant and got hit in your life. You run pick routes and drag routes. Those were your slants. Pick and get me underneath. You never got hit on a slant. But anyway, and if you don't believe me, go watch his film. His 8 million catches and his 7 million touchdowns. I don't think he ever got hit. So anyway, look, I got a good story with combines, because I'm, to Milt's point, and all jokes aside, I'm a believer in the same thing. And unfortunately, your numbers sometimes dictate your opportunity. And that's the reality. So if you're not a tester, start working on it. Start working on 40s and you're 40 and whatever else. Don't worry about your bench press, folks. No one cares. But you're 40 and your vertical and all those explosive exercises. I'm going to add this too. Canadians, this for us, one of the reasons that we're getting better, and like I said, the playing field is evening. But we don't run track growing up. Most of us, like we play soccer, we play hockey, we play basketball in the off season of football. Whereas, and mostly a lot of it is because of the weather, a lot of it is because of the culture. But I know I'm fast. I could run, but I'm a terrible tester because I never ran track in my life. So somebody who might not have the explosiveness that I do, and when I say me, I mean a lot of us Canadians, they might not have the same explosiveness we have because they never ran track, and the technique is so important in getting every eighth of a second out of your time. So when I went to the CFL Combine, I was down there. I was a first team All-American in junior college, and I was playing out in the corner by myself against guys who went to the NFL and went D1 and ran 4.3, and I ran beside them, no problem, bump and run all day long. I got to the CFL Combine and ran a 4.68 at cornerback. You can't play. I'm 5'9". You can't play corner at any level running a 4.68 at 5'9". So I remember Wally Buono. I ran my time, but we did, fortunately, the CFL Combine, you also do one-on-one. So my time was terrible, but we did one-on-ones at CFL Combine. I locked those. I don't think anybody touched the ball. I either got my hands on it or picked it off in every one-on-one. And so my time was terrible, but my one-on-ones were great. Wally Buono reached out to Jeff. Wally Buono was I think he was in Calgary at the time. I think it was his last year in Calgary. He had been in Calgary at the time. And so he reached out to Jeff Tedford, who he had a relationship with, and who was the OC at Oregon, where I was. And he asked Jeff if he could time me, if Coach Tedford could time me again when I got back to school and see, because the time didn't make sense, because they wanted to draft me what they saw on film, but the time wasn't good. So Coach Tedford took me to inside the training facility with our guys or whoever was there. I don't know who was there, but they lined me up and I ran another 40. He sent the time back to Wally. He never told me what the time was. Obviously, it was bad because Wally had, I think, 2 picks before me in the first round. He didn't select me, but that's because my times were no good. And that was in 1999. 2 years later, I'm playing cornerback in the NFL. So obviously, I was fast enough. I wasn't a special teamer because I couldn't play special teams. So, I was fast enough, but the times weren't good because of the testing. So that's one of the things for guys. Don't get too down on yourself. So you're not a great tester. Work on it because it's important, but also understand that, it doesn't mean if you run a fast time, or sometimes it has lots to do with your opportunity, your times, but remember that, you can overcome that. And it's really about being a ball player at the end of the day. You just got to get that opportunity. And sometimes your testing numbers dictate the opportunity.
Unfortunately, as you mentioned, those testing numbers. But if Wally would have believed his eyes, he saw you making plays. He saw you in person. He saw you on film. But he still wanted to see you run a faster time. And unless God was your speed coach, you weren't going to run a faster time. But you were fast enough to cover anybody that you went against on the film. So believe your eye.
Yeah. Luckily this week,
Quincy, what's your 40 time? Hold on, we're not going to get past you. What's your 40 time, Quincy? You're asking us all these questions. What you got?
I got to get a little faster, man. I'm probably looking at 4.9, probably.
You're not. Oh, you running a forever, huh? You running a forever.
Hey, I got to work on that.
Training with your
I appreciate the honesty. He said 4.9. I respect that. There was a guy at the golf course. I was playing golf the other day. We're having drinks on the patio after. There's some guy told me that he ran a 4. He's about 250 pounds, and he was a fullback, I think. And it said he ran a 4.31 or something at college. And I said, you get these guys all the time. I'm like, all right, buddy. I appreciate the honesty, Quincy.
He was running a 30-yard dash. That's what he was doing. It wasn't a 40. Yeah.
Of course. Hey, ask me at the end of the summer. Hopefully we'll get that down. We'll get that down.
Right. Let's go.
Luckily, the end of this week culminates in a game, and there's lots of practices to really show what kind of football player you are, regardless of all the combine testing. And I was just wondering how badly you two want to beat each other, and if we could get a score prediction.
No, Milt's a born loser. Milt's a born loser. Milt's an absolute born loser. Milt's a born loser.
I'm a born loser. Okay. All right.
You have no chance to beat me. You have no chance to beat me.
Chance. I guarantee. Put it like you want to put something on it?
I absolutely do.
Loser has to grow their hair out for a week.
Let's grow their hair back. Got to grow a ponytail.
Okay. With ponytail. Okay, hold on, bro.
You got to grow it long enough to get a ponytail.
No. This is what we'll do. Just like when I bet Kate, the loser has to wear an outfit that the winner picks out for him live on live television when we're on the panel. Right there.
I like that one.
We'll do has to wear the outfit. I'm going to say the outfit will be for next year's game, something like that. Or we can't just wear it.
It's on the panel.
No.
It's on the panel.
I'm not wearing some strange thing on the panel for no reason. Like there's no correlation. No, that's not what happened.
Well, see, if you think you're not going to lose, you don't have to worry about it. So I don't
know who Carlo and Lee are probably sick of my domination, so they're probably going to draft me a crappy team this year because I've won every year I've been there. They're probably going to.
You coached against me 1 year, Chance. You're going to lose this year. It's personal. And when I see you, I'm going to start seeing you. On Wednesday, we're not friends, dude. We're not friends till after the game. There's no more friendly stuff. It's
Don't
not.
call me. Don't call me to go out for dinner. Don't call me to share an Uber. Don't call me.
There it is.
There it is. Then there it is.
All right. Okay.
There it is. You know what? There it is.
All right, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't know if we're getting a score prediction. I think they're both trying to run it up.